Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Codename Morpheus, episode 25. And yes, I am stealing Keegan's intro for this episode because I feel like it. So welcome back to the Codename Morpheus world, where we will be dipping into the world of the virtual in terms of PSVR and other VR things that we feel like we need to talk about. It's been a long week. How have you been, sir?
I'm good. I told you right before we went live where my inspiration for the Hello Internet came from.
Do you want to tell them?
And if you guys are old enough to know the Animaniacs, which is now on Hulu, or the new one, they have a segment. I didn't realize this until like afterwards. Because I'd watched Animaniacs and I watched that short. There's a short called Hello Nurse, and they go Hello Nurse, and I go Hello Internet. Ooh, Hello Internet. I'm hitting puberty, but yeah, that's where my cadence comes from. For that is from Hello Nurse.
There you go.
It just. Kind
Animaniac fans, that's a fun fact for you.
Yeah.
So we are back in the world of the virtual. My name is Tom. This is Keegan, in case you didn't figure it out already. And we are here to talk about this week in PSVR. So let's get started. New games this week. We have a couple. We have Out of Ammo from Zen Studios. And Out of Ammo is an interesting looking title that I am semi on the fence about, but I did buy it. I did use my own monies to pick it up. It's 15 bones.
It's dollars.
No, it's bones. And what it looks like to me is like a little bit of a cross between League of War VR Arena and an actual shooter of some description.
It reminds me of it looks like a mobile shooter game, like
little bit.
When you're looking down from the top down.
It definitely has like the Minecraft aesthetic to it in terms of they don't really give a shit about the aesthetic to it. But you kind of like, you look top down, you place your guard towers and your all that kind of stuff, and then you when the attack starts, you go into the character and you actually fire the gun, throw the grenades, all that kind of stuff. I got it because there's sniper rifles in it, and I'm a sucker for those in any game. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to try it. I honestly, I'm totally not expecting great things, but I will give it a shot.
I watched the Jacksepticeye play, and he enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but he enjoys everything.
That's fun. He's
just an energetic, enjoyable person.
He's an enjoyable guy. But I do feel like potentially there is going to be some fun to it, so that's why I bought it, and I'm pretty excited to try it. But yeah, Out of Ammo this week, $15, pretty fair pricing. And then we have Pierhead Arcade, which is actually on sale right off the bat, $12.74 down from $15.
I'm assuming that's like a week one sale, probably.
It is a PS Plus member sale for week one. Maybe it will last longer than 1 week. I don't know. But Pierhead Arcade, you sent me the trailer for this morning. Do you want to talk about it?
No. I didn't actually watch the trailer. I just sent it to you.
Oh, thank you. No, it is, of course, what it sounds like is if you've been to a pier, then you will know that on the end of most piers is an arcade. And in those arcades, there are games like Whack-A-Mole and things like that. So this is a virtual version of one of those end-of-the-pier arcade places.
Yeah, the only reason I found this trailer this morning was, and the reason I sent it to you was I was going through for Indie. Indie changed literally the morning we're recording. We got a bunch of stuff in, so I wanted to go through YouTube to make sure nothing else had dropped on YouTube. And then I found PlayStation to posted this, and I was more of like, hey, have you seen this? But apparently you had already, so.
I had seen it. I'm also taking my phone off low power because it keeps going dark on me, and I hate that. So I'm going to set
racist.
it to never turn off. That's not racist. Come on now. So yeah, Pierhead Arcade looks semi-interesting. Again, I picked that one up too because I feel like doing a bunch of reviews this week for you guys, so I'm going to start nailing all these reviews. And the one that I have already written a review for but have not yet recorded.
And the gameplay is live on our channel right now.
And the gameplay is live-o on the channel right now. 50 minutes worth is Cold Iron. Now, this morning when I checked the store, Cold Iron was not live, which means I don't know if it exactly goes live today or if it's Friday or it's one of those weird releases. Either way, Cold Iron is coming this week, and Cold Iron, I believe, is a $20 price tag.
I think it goes live tomorrow.
Could be.
Because I think the embargo
lifted at 11 a.m. London time. I know that because that's what I had to put in YouTube for the gameplay video. I actually set it to London time as well because I'm fancy like that. But yeah, Cold Iron is probably the most interesting of these 3 games, and I enjoyed it. And I'm going to talk about it a tiny bit now just because I have played it. So Cold Iron...
It comes out today.
Cool.
Or Tuesday.
Cold Iron is the world's first puzzle dueling shooter VR game. Let me break that down for you.
So I'm not going to lie. I watched part of your gameplay footage. It looked real boring.
You think so?
Very generic, but I'm sure it probably plays more. It's probably more fun to play than it looks.
I will definitely say it's a lot more fun to play.
It just because I had this is the Red Dead game that we saw last week. But yeah, I saw your gameplay footage. Like that looks boring, but I could see how it potentially could be fun.
So how it kind of works is this: there's only 3 things you have to do: holster your gun, wait for a bell,
shoot your gun,
raise your gun, and shoot the person in front of you. I say person lightly because you fight all kinds of crazy shit in this game. It starts off as a typical kind of Western where you're literally just kind of like feeling like, you got your gun down.
Is there a horse that you lead? Because in the trailer there's a horse. Because that's all that was. At some point you led a horse in the trailer to the saloon.
Did not see a horse at any point. So yeah,
1 out of 10 IGN. No horse.
No, not enough horses. So
too much water.
The holster is pretty forgiving. Basically, you just have to aim your move controller down. So it doesn't have to be like your side or anything like that. Of course, if you want to feel like a real Wild West shooter, you can. You can play this game sat down. A lot of people asked that question already. I played it sat down.
Does it support aim?
No. It's 1 move controller. That's it.
That's weird.
Just 1.
I mean, that makes sense, but it's weird.
Right. But the thing about it is, it's very simplistic, because if you think about it, 1 move controller, 3 things you have to remember. Here's where it gets interesting, is because obviously your main goal is to shoot the person in front of you. You get you get points for getting like headshots and stuff like that. But where it gets interesting is the fact that as your enemies change, and they do change, they become more and more difficult to figure out how to kill them, because you still have to shoot them regardless. But as an example, one of the enemies, and I mentioned this in the review that'll be going up, is a sniper, right? So you're kind of there, and you think, how's a sniper going to win a gunfight, right? So before the bell,
sniper has a gun.
Well, just before the bell goes off, the sniper disappears in a whiff of smoke, and then sets themselves up somewhere in the environment in front of you. You have like a big sort of like
Is it random?
Metropolitan area. Yeah, it's random. And so either you catch where they are, which is difficult because it is a little bit blurry even on a pro. Either you catch where they landed and you wait for the bell, then you pop them, or if you don't catch where they land, you can see at some point a laser sight honing in on your position, so you have to see where the laser's coming from really quickly and then pop them before they get their shot off. Another example is, and this is the hardest one, there's a robot that you have to do. The second before the bell goes off, or like...
A robot?
A robot. A little bit before the bell goes off, the screen goes completely black. And to begin with, you have to figure out, okay, how do I shoot the robot if I can't see anything? And then you notice that there's like a little red light, which of course is like the robot's fucking eyes or whatever. So you shoot the red light, you win. Great.
Is it single shot? Do you have one shot?
It's one shot. Well, you can shoot multiple, but if you miss straight off, then they'll get you before you have any kind of a chance. But then,
because I'm thinking dual style is a one shot.
Well, it's
and done.
Yes, but the you have to win 5 duels with that one person to actually win overall.
So best of 5, or
they will get first to 5. They will get progressively harder. So like the second you shoot the robot once with the red light, cool, you're feeling pretty confident about yourself, and then the screen will go dark, and then suddenly the red light will start going pew, 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 to different positions, and you have to track it, and then like the second it stops, okay, shoot that one. By the end of the 5 things with this guy, there's no light. And you still have to shoot him before the lights come up. And you're just like, well, if I can't track him, how do I do it? It took me an embarrassingly long time to realize that every time he hit a location, it made a very particular noise. And each noise had a different tone.
So you want headphones when you're playing?
Yeah, you definitely want headphones or a loud TV. But I had to literally close my eyes. And they give you kind of a hint while you're playing. They say, close your eyes, the gun will do the rest, or whatever. So I had to close my eyes, and I was like, okay, what am I listening for?
Can you do that voice again?
And then I can hear, that's the voice, it's a real voice. You can hear like that when he's on this side, it's this particular noise. When it's this middle section, it's this particular noise. When it's this side, it's this noise. So you have to listen to him going like bing, bong, bing, bong, bing, bing. And then like when he lands on one, you're like, okay, that's right. And then you shoot like before the lights come on.
Do you have a sense, did you play headphones or did you play TV
I played
speakers?
with headphones.
do you have a sense of direction outside of just noise? Like, do you have a direction sense?
No, not
but I've
really.
also learned your direction sense is not the greatest either.
It's not.
So
no,
maybe
but
there might be.
It's an interesting game. From what I understand, it's not super long. I did not make it all the way to the end. I made it pretty far. It's not super long, but the replayability factor is there. So I liked Cold Iron. I wouldn't say it's... Some people are like, oh, this is the next best game after Resident Evil and Farpoint. No, it's not. But it is good. It is a good, solid, fun game. As a player as opposed to a watcher, I'll say that for sure.
We also, I feel like we should say, for sake of clarity, we did get the key from the devs.
We did
on
get the
this
key
one.
from the devs. That's an honest opinion, though.
Doesn't change our opinion on it, but it just, sake of clarity, sake. Because you said you spent your money on AD ammo, you did not spend your money on
I did
Cold
spend my
Iron.
money on that and Pierhead Arcade. I did not spend my money on Cold Iron.
So thank you to the devs.
Apollo 11 is our sale. That is...
was that from last week,
Still
too?
there. Still been there for 3 weeks. It's the only one I can find, except for Pierhead, if you consider that, because that's on that first week sale. But Apollo 11 is the only thing that seems to still be hanging around from the previous sales. $7.20 down from $12. Not a huge sale, but again, if you want to get that game, get it before it goes back up to normal pricing. This is not a PS Plus price. It's a standard price discount on the game, so worth picking up. So let's move right into the news, which is the most fun part of the show in my eyes. And let's talk about Skyrim for the first time in a couple weeks. I feel like it's been off the radar for a little bit. But lovely Jess from Bethesda, otherwise known as Jurassica, is back in the r/PSVR forums to tell us about the upcoming patch 1.2.20, which is a weird patch. So here are some new features coming to Skyrim with a newer patch. Added option for player camera height adjustment, which I think a lot of people have been really asking for. There's a lot of guys playing this game that say that they feel like they're just like really short by the entirety of the game. I kind of feel like they're stuck in crouch mode, but that's just me. But yeah, apparently if you want to adjust your height, you will be
giant,
able to.
then I'd be less scared of things.
I mean, maybe.
I felt like I was flying in
You could
space.
probably get up there pretty bad. I don't think you could get to giant height, but definitely a little bit. They added the option to adjust movement speed using direct movement with the PS Move controllers, which I think is good.
Motion
obviously.
sickness.
Option for crosshair when using PS Move controllers added to VR settings menu, also good. Crosshairs when using PS Move controllers are now only visible when casting.
So it doesn't break the immersion.
Exactly. Bug fixes. Fixed issues with left-hand mode. Fixed issues where perks could be used before they were unlocked.
Hey, that's a good one to have.
Fixed Eagle Eye perk not working with crossbows. Fixes for the telekinesis spell and other bug fixes. So quality of life improvements all around to Skyrim. Most requested one there I think is the height adjustment, although it is nice to see the cursor situations, and of course fixing some of that other stuff, especially for our left-hand players. So thanks to Jurassica for the update. She's always super cool and super hip to where the people are that need this news.
You know who's not super hip?
Who's that?
You.
Me, by
For
using the word super hip. Fair enough. All right, granddaddy-os, let's
boogie on down to the diner here and see what's next.
All right, so Reborn, a Samurai Awakens, is going to be 100% playable at the Taipei Gameshow. I know we're all from Taipei, so this should be we can all go down there. It's no, I'm just kidding. But
I'm gonna take a drive to Taipei.
But Reborn, a Samurai Awakens, if you are kind of unaware of what this game is, it looks like that Metal Gear game, and the name escapes me right now, but it's the Metal Gear game where you got to play as Raiden and you got to just like slice things up really fast. I think it was like Vengeance or Revengeance or some stupid name. But essentially you are what appears to be samurai robot thing. You have guns as well as what appears to be a lightsaber, and you can...
It's a light sword, because lightsaber is trademarked.
Of course, right, light sword.
Light sword.
You can slice things up, and when you dice them up, they actually like fall into those pieces. They also give you hints on how to like block and hold your stuff as you're playing. Looks okay. It doesn't
look good. The only issue I think I had was when you slice something up, it kind of just stays in chunks. It doesn't feel like the slicing
I don't know if that's a stylistic choice or not.
Yeah, I just don't like it.
That's a very kind of Japanese thing
That's just a me thing. Like, I wish they just kind of floated there and then it fell when it was all done. And
so you'd rather it like actually sliced as you were going?
more
I think
smooth.
it's more like to me that's like a Japanese like almost anime aesthetic where there's like and then like the aftermath is just like the body falls off the whatever.
It's not bad. I just personal preference. I'm not a fan of it.
That's
of
fair.
the way it just kind of floated there.
But it's nice to see that it's still doing well enough that they're actually able to showcase it live at this Taipei game show. So that's pretty neat. Drunken Bar Fight is coming soon to PSVR. This game has me super pumped. So picture yourself in a bar where everyone is on ragdoll physics and drunk, and it might help immersion if you get drunk as you play.
Please don't throw up though.
Just saying. But Drunken Bar Fight has you basically doing exactly what it says on the tin, fighting people in a drunken bar fight. It is 100% ragdoll physics, so everything is ridiculous and fun. If you smash someone, they will crumple into little pieces. There are multiple weapons at your disposal. You can hit people with bottles and darts and fire extinguishers. And
do you know the game Color of the Town Red, I think is the name of it?
I do not.
So it reminds me of that, minus the Color of the Town Red. People are block people versus this is actual like 3D.
Oh yeah, these are pretty well modeled.
Yeah.
They're not like ridiculously detailed or anything, but it just looks like
it gets the job done.
A good old time. Yeah. So as for like how much depth there is to a game called Drunken Bar Fight, I don't know.
I would love if you could, because all we saw was one-handed smacks. Can you like smack back and forth?
I guess it depends on how fucked up they get from your punches. Yeah, that would be if you just like slap them around a little bit. But it looks ridiculously fun. I just don't. I'm kind of curious as to the length, B, the challenge levels, and C, like.
Well, if this has like a leaderboard to how quickly can you clear it, that would help replayability.
Yeah, they could definitely implement some things in there to help.
If you could fight other people, that'd be cool. But I don't know how they would do that.
Yeah, because if you got knocked the fuck out in ragdoll physics, you might actually throw up.
Yeah.
But the trailer has some hilarious moments, like a guy gets flung through a window and off a balcony and all kinds of stuff. So think, I guess, gang beasts.
I wonder how many locales they're going to have, too.
In VR.
Because it was just the one we saw, the one locale.
Oh, no, there was a couple. There was like the rooftop balcony thing where the guy flew off, and then there was in an actual bar.
I was going to say, I remember being in the bar.
I don't know. Maybe. Pop-Up Pilgrims is finding its way to PSVR on February 13th. Pop-Up Pilgrims is one of those games that Keegan doesn't understand why they made it in VR. It is, of course, a 2D placed.
It looks like a good game. I just don't. Again, it's one of those games, like you said. I don't understand why it's in the virtual reality.
So think Lost Bear. It's that 2D platformer style thing, except it's got Z space added to it. You can look around things, and I guess artistically it looks pretty neat.
If they implement it well, like if there's a reason for it to be VR, like you move forward to kind of because the way it looked like there's just 2D layers that's just cut out and just go backwards. If you have to like walk forward to like look at the far layer versus the camera moving you, that makes more sense. Like that's to me using the VR for a purpose, whether it's aesthetic or not. But if it's just like, hey, you can look around the whole level, I think that's dumb.
It's kind of interesting because they in the actual VR trailer for the game, they don't really showcase the VR portion of it. I think they do one of those like this is kind of what it looks like in VR things, but they don't really have a good way to showcase it. So make your own mind up from the trailer as to whether you think it's worth picking up. I actually quite like these 2D jaunts through VR, so I'm totally on board for this. I think it'll be a lot of fun, but we'll see. That's exciting though. That's coming relatively soon there on February the 13th. Blasters of the Universe is, as far as I know, the world's first VR bullet hell game. And I like saying a world's first because there's so many like games in VR that are world's first just because no one's bothered to think of doing it before, like Cold Iron. But yeah, VR bullet hell, which honestly I'm super skeptical about how fun this game is going to be because
the commentary got annoying during the trailer. Like they tried to go like insults you when you're doing stuff, but it didn't seem like it was polished enough. Like Dick Wilde to me made perfect sense.
Right.
This just kind of seems like some dude was like, we're going to just insult the player as much as we can.
It did seem like someone just got their friend to do the voiceover for it. But yeah, I mean, basically there are multiple variations of gun types. You can customize and craft your own guns, and you have a gun in one hand, shield in the other, and then you are peppered with bullets from all angles, which you have to avoid using your body and also the shield. So kind of think super hot, on acid. Lots of a bullet hell is going to be very, very difficult to play in VR, in my opinion. It is releasing on February 27th for PSVR. I'm not gonna cast any official opinion on it until I get to play it, but it does look interesting, to say the least. Whether or not it actually sticks the landing, we will find out on February 27th. And alongside that, we have Contagion Outbreak headed to PSVR. You'll notice it's a lot of new games that we're talking about that maybe you hadn't heard about before last week.
Zombie.
Contagion Outbreak looks like a really solid zombie game. It is definitely erring on the side of realism as opposed to Arizona Sunshine or Dead Hungry or any of those games. But Contagion Outbreak is one that has done particularly well on other VR things like the Rift and the Vive. But it looks like it might be a good time. Obviously, you're not going to play this at all. But for me, I think it's going to be relatively interesting. A lot of the footage that you get to see in terms of what's out there right now is like inside apartments and stuff. So it's not just like running around the streets trying to avoid zombies. There might be some of that, but it actually looks like there is an element, a kind of a half an element of realism to it.
You know what zombie game we need, and that'll be just the end of zombie games in VR.
What's that?
Dead Rising VR.
You think so?
Could you imagine having like a chainsaw going? Rrrr?
That would be quite fun. I think maybe Killing Floor Incursion will have a little bit of that craziness to it. But yeah,
because when I want a zombie game, if I'm gonna have a zombie game, I want an overtop zombie game. I don't like zombie games, but if I was gonna play one, it would be that.
More cartoony, more crazy.
Like Dying Light, more just kick things in the face and watch them flying.
That's still kind of semi-realistic.
Yeah, but they have ragdoll physics, like you said. I mean, we kick things off buildings.
Ragdoll physics are always great.
Yes.
Contagion Outbreak, though, headed to PSVR, officially confirmed, and it looks pretty good. So let's get into the weirder news. That's kind of like all like crazy new release stuff out of the way. Finally. And this is, I say finally because I've been waiting for this for a long time.
Because I know you want to get back in this game.
You know I can't wait to get back in this game. The Alison Snow and Chisato Shinjo English versions, the DLC for Summer Lessons, two different girls are heading to Southeast Asia, aka Hong Kong.
Fix your notes
so we're getting English versions of the Alison Snow, who's the blonde American girl, and then Chisato Shinjo, who is, I believe, another Japanese girl.
She doesn't sound American.
She's a rich girl. So as far as I understand, you have I forget the name of the main girl. I'm so sorry for
I fed you.
whoever you were to offend you. I forget your name. But yeah, it's Sakari something. Anyway, instead of her, you get an American girl, and then the Chisato, I believe, is a rich girl, as far as what I understand about her character. And it's just like, it's been fucking forever that these DLCs have been released in Japan and never officially crossed over to the English side of things with the full English subtitles like the original game got. So they are going to be coming to the Hong Kong store, which means you'll be able to pick them up if you already have the Hong Kong version of Summer Lessons. On top of that, they are going to be available as a single package.
So like a Game of the Year edition.
So, I mean, but you can buy them separate.
But it's a Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, you're getting both Alison Snow and Chisato Shinjo as one thing. The cost-wise, no idea. Probably ridiculously expensive. Will I pay it? Probably.
They should bring back, like, Xbox did the Platinum Hits thing. They should bring that back for, like, VR.
Yeah.
At some point, once they...
Well, they should just do it for regular PS4 games.
They should for any games in general. Yeah. Just be like, the big hits, here you go. Here's a full package of all the... I mean, it's the Game of the Year edition, but like for $20, you could have bought a game from the beginning of the year that sold over X amount of units. They had a measurement for it.
But yeah, so those of you that do have Summer Lessons and enjoyed the Hong Kong version that had the English language in it, you will be able to get Alison Snow and Chisato Shinjo relatively soon.
But if you didn't have it, you could buy it as one.
You could. GT Sport has new tracks and cars, and they all work in VR. But we're still only with the one-on-one racing. So no update as far as like trying to open that up more. Which is so stupid because
Drive Club can do, what, 6, I think?
Quite a few.
Maybe more? Yeah. I don't remember. I think it was
does
6.
Quite a few too.
Yeah, it's just like, come on.
So yeah, it's
like if this was a launch thing, cool, that's fine. Now that we have something to compare it against, it's not as fine.
Yeah, I think
especially GT Sport with the great name Gran Turismo behind you.
I feel like Kaz just hates VR.
Is Sony, because Turn 10 is that Sony published? I believe it's Sony published.
What,
right?
GT?
Yeah. So with Sony behind them, like You would think.
That's the surprising part. But Kaz, who's the main director behind GT Sport, has been consistently saying he hates PSVR and he doesn't think it's there yet for the technology. And that sounds to me like a guy that's like, our game's too good for your VR unit. You can make concessions, dude. You can make concessions to make this work.
These are my concessions. I'm going to lose the visual quality. These are my concessions.
And you'd have,
dude,
you'd have
a
lot bigger fan base for the VR guys. Because a lot of people that picked up that GT Sport bundle with the VR bundle are like super disappointed. And they have every right to be, because that game was promised to have like full VR and it doesn't. It has a lot of stuff in VR.
Well, it was promised to have full VR, and then like I think it was like a month before they were like, actually it's not the whole game, it's
right,
things.
Which is bullshit. So it's nice that the new stuff that came out is compatible with the VR, but they're still restricting it to that one-on-one gameplay, which is kind of bumming me out a little bit. Then we have Zing, The Land Beyond, is hoping that on PS4 and PSVR specifically, the sales there are going to save the game after disappointing PC sales. So Zing, The Land Beyond, has been released on other platforms for a little while now, and it hasn't exactly received the reception that they were hoping for. So they're hoping that by the time it hits PSVR, which I think it's fair to say that PSVR players generally, I think, pick up more games than Rift and Vive users.
I don't think so. I think there's more on Rift and Vive.
Fair enough.
Because it's an open platform.
I feel like they get more games, but well, I mean, I don't have any statistics to back that up, so I'll shut up.
Because I just think, like I said, I just think it's just a sheer numbers game.
So, developed by indie studio White Lotus Interactive with help from $30,100 raised via Kickstarter all the way back in 2013, Zing is a first-person game with both VR and standard display support that was long watched by the VR community. The Oculus Rift DK1 was the only known headset during the early 2013 campaign. After years of development, the game finally made it to Steam on the Oculus Store on September 21st, 2017. However, in a recent update, the team spoke candidly about the game's lackluster performance. To be honest, our sales haven't been great, Kirill Venus Kruer from White Lotus wrote, despite the praise we've received from most of the people who have played. While official figures weren't disclosed, Zing has a very positive average review holding on Steam from 51 reviews and a near 5-star rating from 37 reviews on the Oculus Store. The studio pointed to several reasons for the game's struggles, including the overly saturated Steam market. Once upon a time, launching a game on Steam really meant something, but that is no longer the case for small developers like us, Kruer noted, adding that only Oculus has continued to feature the game on its store page, which the team was extremely grateful for. Lack of marketing was also an issue, especially with audiences misunderstanding that the game is VR only. It isn't, and media coverage, which the developer intends to fix. On top of all that, the company has downsized from 3 to 2, leaving just 2 people to work on the upcoming PS4/PSVR release. And it says, and yes, we are still living in our parents' houses on a shoestring budget, and the company is currently in debt, Kruer wrote. Despite this, we continue to work on the game every week, hoping to get the PlayStation version out as soon as we possibly can. I'll leave that there. But basically, Zing put him in a hole a little bit. So that sucks, man, to make $30,000 off a Kickstarter and then have it bite you in the ass because the game didn't do well.
I mean, you're biting off more than you could chew. The way I look at it is, if it was a good game, it would have stood out. Obviously, I fault them for marketing, because I don't think, as we've talked before, new developers don't really know how to market themselves.
Not at all.
And it's their own fault for not explaining what their game was to people, that it is both VR and non-VR. So I give them full fault on that. Even though they may not know what to do, that is their job to figure out how to market their game, because nobody really gives a shit about you until you tell them give them a reason to give a shit about you. So I have that fall on them. I have mixed feelings on this, because I think with PSVR being smaller, could, like they're saying, it's less saturated, that kind of thing. But again, I also feel like that's an excuse. As somebody who is big and watches a lot of VR people and non-VR people and watches a lot of YouTube, I've never heard of this game. Ever. And again, I feel like part of that falls on developers for picking the right people to send it to, getting the word out there. Part of it is falling on the game to make sure the game's good enough.
Well, it has good ratings.
Yeah, but if the good ratings are 10 people, 51 people, if you sell 51 copies, you're not going to make a profit.
Yeah.
So that's my... I understand that that they've got the whole thing riding on this, and I don't want to be like it's not going to work, but I feel like that almost sounds like a pity party excuse. Like, oh, woe is me, didn't sell on Steam, we're going to move it to PS4. That's cool. They're putting the effort into it from 3 to 2. They're still putting the effort into it, and I appreciate that.
I don't think that's necessarily what they're saying. I think what they're saying is it didn't do as well as we thought, and we really hope it does better on PSVR. I don't think they're being like, oh, please support us.
Well, the line that says releasing something on Steam used to mean something. I think that's to them like,
that's
where I have that's the line that I had the issue with, where it's like it's your job to market your game. It's our job to market Level 2.
Right.
So
Level2Gamers.com, now on Twitch.
Twitch.tv/Level2GamersSTL.
So there you go. So the last bit of news has me pretty kind of stirred up a little bit, and I'll tell you why. So
because you ate Taco Bell last night and your guts are going.
I ate Emo's Pizza last night.
That's gross. Emo's is disgusting.
So. Wow, St. Louis is mad
you heard
at
it.
Right now.
Emo's is disgusting as somebody not from St. If you don't
I
know,
get the thick crust though.
I don't care. It's Emo's.
That thin crust bullshit.
Emo's is a pizza joint here that everybody swears by, and I think it's gross.
Anyway, so virtual reality movement peripheral 3D Rudder is going to be announced for PlayStation VR. Now, you pointed this out distinctly before we went into the show, that it looks a lot like the Rock and Rolla, which was a NES peripheral, which was designed so that you could play a video game with your feet.
It was the D-pad.
It was the D-pad, right.
Well, it's what it's supposed to be.
So
go look up Edgar Video Game Nerd.
It'll be behind.
NES successors.
Don't worry, I'll have it up there. So basically,
but his commentary's good.
This is what I want you to picture in your mind's eye, and you have a little bit of help behind. But essentially, it is like a disc-based thing that you put your feet onto. There's like somewhat of a bouncy bowl, half a bowl underneath that you are tipping and moving, and that is moving you in the VR game. So it takes a little bit of pressure away from developers to have to really, really nail those controller movements that everyone's been complaining about lately for things like Move and stuff, because if you can do the movement with your feet in this 3D rudder thing, then you can start mapping things out to the controllers that you can do a bit more with. So for those of you that were mad about the Inpatient's movement scheme and things like that, it kind of counterbalances some of that.
No pun intended.
So let's talk a little bit about it. So on their page it says, it's no secret that movement in virtual reality is something that is still being figured out. Developers have tried full movement, teleportation, on rails, and more to make navigating their games as intuitive and comfortable as possible, to varying degrees of success. However, hardware is beginning to emerge that aims to make moving around in virtual worlds more tactile. One such example is 3D Rudder, a small accessory that is currently available for PC virtual reality fans and is compatible with all major headsets on that platform. From a seated position, you place your feet atop the device and walk by tilting forwards. You can move on 4 axes, and it frees up your hands to focus on other actions. In an interview with VR Focus, which is where we're getting this news from, 3D Rudder's Executive Vice President Christophe Dussault had this to say regarding the peripheral's future. For the future, we are working for the console manufacturers, and we will announce later this year 3D Rudder for consoles. He goes on to specify PlayStation and, interestingly, pause for dramatic effect, Xbox as the consoles in question. He also gives a vague idea of when we might expect to see the 3D Rudder for PlayStation VR hit stores. Nothing is confirmed yet, but it will hopefully be in Q3. So I think you can tell here why I picked this news. It's not because I'm excited about this shitty peripheral. It is because they said they're working on it for consoles, specifically PlayStation and Xbox.
Well, Xbox does support VR currently, but it's a roundabout system of doing it. So we do have to keep that in mind. They do support, they have the partnership with Oculus, and they do support Oculus.
But you can't plug an Oculus into a Xbox.
As of the current software update, no.
Okay. But do you think this is more of a hint towards the possibility of it, of there being a larger thing at play here that we're just not hearing about?
I don't think Xbox is making a headset, if that's what you're asking.
No, I don't think they're necessarily making a headset.
I think they're going to use their partnership with Oculus to do something because of how well PSVR is done. Because we've said before that Microsoft is looking at PSVR and seeing kind of how it's going, and right now, it's going pretty well for all things considered. That being said, I think we'll wait till Gen 2 for Microsoft to get in and be like, hey, this is what we've learned, because they can steal stuff from developers.
You don't think this means it might be earlier than Gen 2?
Nope.
Why not?
Why not? Because I think So my take on it is,
I mean, and again, this is
Yeah.
pinch of salt news, right?
Yeah.
This is pinch of salt rumor news. But it is interesting that a company that maybe has at least had conversations with these companies is dropping this name in there as something that they are thinking about, right?
so the reason I think it's not going to be sooner than that is because Microsoft, I don't think will announce anything this year at E3 when it comes to, they'll probably announce VR support again, but I don't think it'll be anything over the top that'll be like, hey, here's a potential, here's some things that are coming. I don't think it's going to be ready because I think right now what Microsoft is focusing on and the things they need to focus on is their software. They don't need another peripheral to sell something that does not have software. That being said, if this year E3 and all their other announcements go well, where they say, hey, here's first party title, we buy EA, we get fucking Titanfall, that's not going to happen. But if they have software ready to go and they go to E3 this year and said, hey, 2019, you're going to expect a new Fable, which is being rumored. You're going to get Halo 6 or whatever they call it. You're going to get Gears of War 5 in 2020. Like, if they have set that roadmap, they're freeing themselves up for the next year, which is the year you would... What year is that, Tom? What's the next year? 2020? What year did I say things are going to happen? 2020 with PlayStation? We hit that mark. They're going to announce this. Well, they're going to announce their whatever their partnership... I don't think they're making a headset. I think it's
But
a
if they're
partnership.
making a Gen 2 PSVR headset by 2020 with the PlayStation 5 or whatever the fuck,
Microsoft is working with...
Microsoft is going to be behind.
Nope.
though.
Microsoft's working with Oculus to make a next generation Oculus. So we have the Vive Pro. We're waiting on the Oculus 2, whatever the hell
Well,
they
they're
call
doing
it.
Oculus Go. They did that.
Yes, but that is not the same as a premium headset. It's a different category.
Okay.
Different category because it's a lot. It uses mobile parts. It also uses 3-axis versus 6-axis. So there are differences between that. I think that's going to be the most accessible for people, but I don't think it's what Microsoft's going to work with. I think they're working with Oculus because they have that partnership. They're going to say, hey, what have you guys learned? What are we going to try and push forward? How can we help to get this compatible for Xbox and Windows? Because remember, they're doing this crossplay thing, and it's only going to help both companies in the long run. So that's my business hat going on and saying, hey, this is what their plan's going to be. Because I think Microsoft would be dumb if they announced new hardware this year. Last year was new hardware. This year needs to be software for that hardware. Next year is going to be the hardware year, I think, again. Whether it's peripherals or they won't do a new console because they just did it, but PlayStation might tease something. But I think that will be when Xbox does the partnership of like, hey, you remember that partnership we had with Oculus 3 or 4 years ago? Well, we're finally going to take advantage of that. We've worked closely with Oculus to get it optimized and play best on Xbox One X, because you know they like that phrase. And it'll be the best place. Xbox One X will be the best place to play virtual reality.
You think so?
That's what they're going to say. That is going to be their slogan. Best VR is going to be on Xbox One X.
That's a shitty slogan.
That's what their slogan is now. Best place to play is Xbox One.
Yeah, but best place to play virtual reality is a really lengthy, wordy slogan.
The best virtual world is on Xbox One
Best
X.
place for... Ooh, I like that one. That's better.
So they can say whatever the fuck they want. It's going to be that sentiment, though.
All right.
So I have a feeling, because if you think about it now, because what's holding back the PSVR? It's the console. No, from a visual standpoint, it's the console. The base console is not powerful enough to run what people want it to run. What does Microsoft have an advantage in? Power with the Xbox One X. So VR will be Xbox One X only.
I don't know.
I do.
That's
what I'm calling. I'm calling it again. I have fucking crazy predictions out there.
I'm just saying, I don't think the Xbox One X is as powerful as people make it out to be. Like, I think, like, on paper it is, but no one has unlocked that yet. Because there's nothing right now that plays on Xbox One X.
Have you seen an Xbox One X in 4K?
No, but I haven't even seen a Pro in 4K either.
Okay, I've seen both.
Okay.
Xbox One X is fucking amazing when it comes to the lighting, the things like 4K in general looks fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but
When did you see an Xbox One X in 4K?
I might have gone shopping at one point for one to see how much it would have cost me.
I was gonna say, you don't know anyone that has an Xbox One X.
Hayden has one.
Oh, does he?
So fuck you.
Wow. All right, settle down.
But no, I think that's going to be their plan going forward. It's going to be this year will be software ready 3. They have to do that. If they don't do that, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot.
They're definitely dead in the water for software right now.
Yeah. So then next year will be potentially a hardware announcement.
They're doing better. I mean, like I said, they did well enough for me to pick one up on the...
You mean they had PUBG?
Well, they added PUBG. Cuphead was already got me on the fence, but Cuphead was nowhere near enough. But when they put PUBG in there, I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. Because I already wanted to play like Gears of War 4 and things like that. So this kind of just pushed me over the edge a little bit. And Subnautica as well. Like those types of indie games seem to find their way onto Xbox way before they go
You know
anywhere
why?
near PlayStation.
Because Xbox is built on Windows. You know where those games are made? On Windows platforms.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
And
like,
that's why
doing okay with
that's
that.
what I'm saying with the partnership. I think it's only because Oculus right now, if you think about it, where Microsoft and Oculus are, they're last in what's going on. And last doesn't mean they're doing bad. They're just not doing as good as the other two. So PSVR is number 1, Vive is number 2, Oculus is number 3 when it comes to big 3. Console land, PSVR. Technically, if you'd go by current sales, Switch is number 1 right now when it comes to month over month. They're selling more than PS4, but overall, it's going to be PS4. It's still Xbox and then Switch, but I think that's going to switch at some point. No pun intended. So they both need to do something to garner interest, and if you can play your Oculus Rift,
could make cardboard boxes.
Both. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that's going to do actually pretty. I'm not going to lie. I think that's going to do. I think it's going to do fantastic, but I just think it's weird. But that to me is these two companies that are the underdogs right now coming together and saying, let's fucking blow people out of the water. People didn't expect Project Scorpio to be as powerful as it is. So
well, we'll see. All right, so what do you guys think about the Xbox VR experience? Do you think it's on the way? Do you think this news is a bit of a leak towards the idea? Or do you think that it's going to be forever away like Keegan does? Let us know.
Away. 2020 is only 2 years away.
It's forever away.
It's 2 years.
So let us know, of course, in the comments below. We love your engagement. By the way, thank you so much last week. Everyone listened and everyone engaged, and there was so many nice comments. We love you guys so much for that. Keep doing it. You're the best. Let's spotlight a game. So let's spotlight a game
that is controversial
on
I'm gonna eat my nuts while you spotlight
where it landed, and controversial enough for me to make an interesting question that follows based on the same game. So I want to talk about this game because I played it yesterday.
I have not.
All the way through, beginning to end. And my goddamn footage got corrupted within 10 minutes, so I lost all of that footage, and I haven't been able to put together a review and or gameplay for you guys yet. Apologies, don't worry, I intend on replaying it, re-recording it, and then redoing the review. So, let's talk about The Inpatient. So, The Inpatient was a gigantically sought-after title from a very popular company, especially in the world of VR, as in Supermassive. They already had proved themselves with Until Dawn Rush of Blood. They already have Bravo Team on the way, and Inpatient was the other big one that everyone was kind of looking for on the horizon. The Inpatient itself is a horror game, which in VR, they tend to do spectacularly well, because of course everyone knows that the more immersed you are in a game, the more scared you're going to be, so that's why horror titles work really well. So The Inpatient came out. $40 was the price tag on it.
It is also a kind of prequel style thing to Until Dawn, which was a very well received game as well. So keep that in mind.
It is a prequel, and it does have a direct tie-in that I won't spoil for you.
So would you tell people, before we get too far, would you tell people play Until Dawn before they play this?
No.
Okay.
I think let me put it this way. There's nothing obvious about this game that says that it has anything to do with Until Dawn until after the end credits.
Cool.
And it's a very small thing.
Cool.
So I think you're fine.
That way if somebody is like, hey, I have a
Which
VR,
does, by the way, mean that you should watch the entirety of the end credits, despite how fucking long they are. And don't worry, I will record them all, and if you want to just see the last literally 10 seconds that ties it into Until Dawn, you will. Okay, so The Inpatient, $40, Supermassive. Everyone's excited.
Supermassive, the game studio.
We hop onto r/PSVR that morning, and we're both looking at each other like, come on, man, let's see what we got here.
Well, you're in r/PSVR. I'm in Facebook.com/whatever their
Either way,
URL
we're both
is.
in our places, and what happens?
It's mixed. People are upset because it's short. People are upset because the controls are wonky. People are upset because it was not what they expected. People loved the game. People hated the game. People were yelling at each other. It was one of those games that, like, it's a very divisive game where I've seen people defend it and say this is fantastic. You guys were crazy for thinking this not good. And I've seen people say this is not what I expected. And I think part of it comes to, like anything else, expectations of what you had going in. I've not played it myself, so I can't speak to it exactly. But Yeah, I would say that's probably the gist I've got from most people. Or the controls are wonky. Even if people liked it, they said the controls could have been better. And there's mixed feelings on the scare factor. So you said you had one jump scare. Some people said they had 4. Some people said they had none. Like,
there were scary moments that I was okay with because I'm brave. But there was some that, like, there was moments where I knew I was going to be scared, and I could see it coming, and I just kind of laughed about it because I knew what was about to happen, and then I laughed it off when it did happen. I'll talk about one in a minute. But there was only one genuine moment of pure, like, pant-shitting fear for me in the entire game. Which, when you compare it to a game like Resident Evil, which has multiple instances of kind of shitting your pants, is not a lot, right? But there's definitely a lot of creepy stuff that goes on. So where do you think I fall? Because I haven't told you my opinions yet. Because I want to know what you think I thought of this game.
Based on what you told me earlier. So, like you said, you had one jump scare. You played the whole thing. I think you enjoyed it. We don't give things scores, but I would say probably like a 7-8 range is where I would say you fell. You are a fan of Until Dawn, so I feel like you like that atmosphere. That's your type of game. But I think you had some issues. I don't think it met your expectation when it comes to scare factor. Is kind of where I think you lost a couple points for the game. So
it's close. It's close. You know me well. So let me say this. So I played it.
I don't know anything about controls that you had.
I played it start to finish. The controls are fine. People that are complaining about the controls are just bitching for bitching.
I don't know. Even people that enjoyed the game said the controls, they didn't like it. So.
Well, here's the thing. The actual movement is fine. Let me say that, because here's the movement. Okay, hold down the top of the left move controller to go forward. Hold down the right controller and either turn it left or right to move left or right. It's pretty simple. It's not difficult to do. It's kind of similar to Solace Project in a lot of ways, except it's full turning. You can choose incremental, but I chose to be free. And that was fine to me. Like that, the people that are bitching about that, I think, just have a stick up their ass, because that is perfectly fine controlling. For a game that the pacing is as slow as it is in this game, you don't have to react to anything. There's nothing that you don't have a gun. You don't have any other, like, literally I think you only use like maybe 3 buttons in the entire game, and if that's all you have to do to move, that's fine. Here's where the controls did get weird. The noodle arms are fucking ridiculous, right? For funsies, and I'm going to recreate it when I redo my recording, but for funsies, I wanted to see just how weird the noodle arms got. So if you just sit there and spin your move controllers, your hands just do like, just twist around like goddamn Stretch Armstrong, and it's so funny. But it's almost like, because I played sat down, it's almost like your arms are consistently down by your side until you make a very like obvious gesture of you lifting one or the other arm. Once you make that obvious gesture, your hands kind of pop up out of nowhere. Trying to grab pieces of paper and things like that is a little finicky. It's not terrible, but it's a little finicky. But where they really get kind of weird is when you get close to surfaces, because we talked about this before the game came out, how Supermassive had kind of implemented this tactile environment where, like, if you bang up against something, the move controller makes you feel like you've banged up against something. And that's amazing. It feels great. But it's also janky, because, like, you'll still go through the environment. Like, you'll hit it, but then you'll go through it. You don't stop. There are instances where you, like, if you push against glass or, like, you tap on a windowsill, your arm will move to that of the environment. So the realism level of, like, how your hands interact with things is not bad. It's pretty kind of unique, actually. I liked that part. I liked being able to, like, bang up on the window with my hands and actually feel like I was banging on a window. That was neat. But it just is the kind of, like, if your hands got stuck in the environment, or like if you got the noodles, like that stuff was weird. So the arm movement was kind of weird, but I appreciated that they tried. And I think that ultimately, if you don't purposefully like twiddle the fucking move controllers around, you're not going to get the noodle arms, dude. You just play it like normal, and they're very rare instances where your arms are actually going to start freaking out for no reason, unless you're like in a wall or too close to something or whatever. If you play it kind of smart and at the right distance to things, and as you would in a real environment, you don't see it. You don't really see it. It's not until you kind of fuck up and go outside the realms of what you're supposed to be doing that things get weird. The turning is a little weird. The left and right turning is fine. You can do a 180 turn sometimes if you're too close to something. There's no real way to kind of like back away slowly. You actually have to hold the right stick over your shoulder and tap. Then you'll do a 180. You walk forward, you tap around again, and then you're good. So that's a little awkward. Overall, though, they're fine. Like they're not amazing, but they're completely serviceable for the experience that you get. The movement is slow, which for the most part is okay because you're playing a horror game that's completely built off of atmosphere. So during the game, there are moments where you slip into this kind of other world, if you will, very Lovecraftian world where everything's kind of glowing green and weird and there's spooky things going on. And of course, if you're going down a long, creepy hallway or whatever it is, you want it to be slow. You don't want to run down a hallway because that's going to instantly kill any immersion that you have. When you do have like long, sloggy walking parts, you definitely feel like, I wish I was a little bit faster, or that maybe there was like an option to speed up a little bit, like run versus walk. That option would be nice. But when you do walk slow. But again, this is a 100% narrative tale. There's no real like gameplay to it. There's no shooting anything, hitting anything, stabbing anything, healing anything. It is just you being a part of the environment in the most immersive way possible. In some instances, especially near the beginning, the character models do feel a little off because it seems like everyone is a giant because you spend the majority of the first part of the game sat down in a chair, in a wheelchair, on your bed, like you're sat down. And it's not until you stand up for the first time that you think, oh, they're not giants, we're all giants. Because when you stand up, you feel fucking massive. You feel really tall, which for me was awesome because I'm not tall. So I really enjoyed that for the brief moment that I was doing it. But the actual narrative, the story is pretty cool. I liked it, man. I liked the story. There was a lot of like weird confusion going on around it. It definitely ramps up quite significantly fast somewhere in the middle to the point where you go from basically doing nothing to doing lots and lots of terrifying things in a row. But the way that it does actually ramp up is good. I like that. The story is told through a main game and also flashbacks and dreams. So like the main game is you're basically in this asylum, you don't know why you're there, you have a roommate that also doesn't know, well, he kind of does know why he's there, but he won't let you know why. And then if you interact with certain objects, you will have a flashback to something in your memory. And when you go to sleep, you have bad dreams. And the bad dreams are the alternate universe where everything's green and creepy. And then one day, they don't come to give you your food. And you kind of wake up, and it seems like it's been maybe a couple days since you passed out. I think your roommate, like, knocks you out or something. And it's been a couple days, you wake up, and you notice that no one's been there for a while. And he's kind of lost the plot a little bit. He's been drawing on the walls and stuff like that. And then it kind of progresses from there, where you hear all this, like, crazy, scary noises are going on outside of your room, but neither of you know what's actually going on. A week will pass. You still haven't had any food. You're starting to starve. Things are starting to get weird out there, but you still hear these noises. And the people that you've been interacting with, as far as like nurses and things like that, have all but stopped coming to your cell. So you've basically been forgotten about in your cell. And then at some point, the door opens and you can go out and explore. And that's when things start to get a little bit extra creepy. I won't say any more than that as far as the narrative goes because it is really like you have to experience it firsthand to truly get the most out of the story, and the story is the thing that's really going to keep you in the game. I will say that the emphasis that's put on the trailers for this game is the completely wrong emphasis. They made it seem like you were going to be interacting with this doctor quite significantly. You literally see him for 5 minutes at the beginning and 5 minutes at the end, and that's the entirety of your time spent with this character, despite him being the focal point of every art. All the art, all the trailers, all everything. He is hardly in the game at all. But because of that, you're kind of kept in the dark as to what the game's actually about and who you actually are spending most of your time with and what that looks like. So I think that I was almost grateful that it didn't turn out to be me and this doctor for the entirety of the game, because that meant that there was something else there that I was not expecting, or I kind of wasn't clued in on before I started playing the game. Realism and immersion is what they're going for here. Does it always work out perfectly? No, not at all. Like I said, in certain instances where things kind of freak out, like movement-wise. But for the most part, if you're playing it semi-sensibly and you're kind of playing it, almost role-playing it in your head as you would do a normal VR experience, you'll get more out of it. Does it end abruptly, which is the other big complaint that a lot of people had with it? Yes, it does end abruptly, just about when it starts becoming really, really cool, which is a shame. And it makes me wonder if they ran out of time or whether this was a decision that they made purposely. The butterfly effect, from what I understand, does not have as big an impact as one might think. One of the nice elements of it is that you do have voice commands. So that helps your immersion level as well, because we talked about the 3D binaural is in there. So yes, you can hear things exactly where they are in the environment. Tactile environment is there, touching on things, make sure moves vibrate so you actually feel like you're kind of touching on things. The voice commands add this kind of extra layer, because when someone asks you a question, you'll have a choice of two things. It will tell you how to say the answer. So if you want extra immersion, it'll be like, say this frightened or say this anxious or whatever, and then it gives you a sentence to say. Now you can either hold a trigger on that and say it that way, or you can just say it with your mouth, which I decided to try it out because I'd never kind of done that before, and it's super reliable. I have an accent, obviously, and it didn't have any problems with my accent, and it was really neat, because that again puts you in the game. If your character's asking you a direct question, you're giving a direct answer. Like, anyone that's watching you from the outside thinks you're crazy, but for you in game, this is a really nice experience to have. So when you're actually replying to the doctor or your roommate or whoever else you're hanging out with, it does force you to be more immersed in the experience. So overall, is it short? Yes. Does it end quickly? Yes. Are the controls perfect? No. Did I have a good time playing it? Yes, absolutely. I did have a good time. I really enjoyed it. I think that the things that they did right, they did really right. I would love to see them expand upon this in a way that is more of a full-length thing, like Resident Evil 9-hour experience, as opposed to this, which is a 2-hour experience. There's no mistake in it. Like, you can only do this in 2 hours. The scares, they're not all the way there. There's some really good ones. There's one that I will give away, so spoilers, spoiler alert, fast forward 30 seconds or so from now. There's a part where you come across a doll's house and you see a character of yourself in the doll's house, and you can pick up your character and you kind of look at it, then you put it back in the doll's house, and then there's a shadow figure behind you in the doll's house looking at a doll's house. So what do you think is going to happen?
Someone's going to be behind you.
Yeah. So I was like, I sat there, and this is why I'm so sad that my gameplay footage didn't record. You can see me drop my head and kind of shake my head like I know exactly what's behind me right now. I click for the 180, and of course, there's our guy. So yeah. So some of the scares are like, you know, they're coming. It still makes them enjoyable. There was one that got me outright. Everyone will know which one it was, I'm sure. It's right near the beginning. But everything else was kind of like expected and or just not that scary. Is it worth $40? No. $30? I think so.
20 is what I've been hearing from a lot of people.
I think 30 is okay. Because I had that internal debate while I was playing it. While I was getting... Because if it had ended where I thought it was going to end, because I thought it was going to end a lot sooner than it did, because it definitely dragged a little bit more towards the end, to the point where I was like, oh, wait, there is quite a lot to this, because I started to get nervous it was going to end any second, and there was still like a good hours left of gameplay. And I was thinking to myself, would I, like, is $20 fair for this? And the experience that I was having at that time, I was like, no, $20 is not fair. It's worth more. Like, the experience I'm having right now, the joy I'm experiencing in this horror environment right now, I'm basically in a horror movie. It's a 2-hour experience, which is about as long as a movie. I'm in here as close as I can get in terms of tactile environment and stuff. and I'm having a good time. And so I think $30 is fair. I think 20 is too cheap. 25, 30, that range. So should you pick it up for 40? If you want to support the developers, sure. If you just love a good horror experience, sure. Otherwise, wait for a sale. To be perfectly honest with you, wait for a sale. And I think it'll hit a sale pretty quickly, judging by, the reception that it's received. But I do think that it is absolutely worth your time. I do think it's been shit on unfairly. And I think there's a lot more to it than people are giving it credit for. And a lot of that is probably false expectations, like you said right at the beginning. People hyping it up to think that it's going to be this thing that it turned out not to be does not make it a bad game. It just means that your expectations were way too high.
No Man's Sky is not a bad game. It was hyped falsely.
It's nowhere near No Man's Sky.
But No Man's Sky, but it's one of those things where No Man's Sky is not a bad game.
Correct.
I just think the expectations.
Not what people thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
That's the example I was using.
So that leads into my question for the week, and that question is: with the Inpatient's poor or mixed reception, does it have you concerned about either the future of the double to triple A range of games for VR, or more specifically, Supermassive and Bravo Team? Go.
Yeah. It already did.
Okay. Tell me about it.
So, as you know, I've been high on the Bravo Team train of that's one of the games I'm excited and interested to see. But after this, I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to wait and see how it's received because it's got teleportation. It's got the cover-to-cover shooting, that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna wait. I was going to look into it and get it firsthand, but I didn't. Or I'm not going to now because of this. And
entirely because of this?
Yeah. I mean, so the other factor that is in there is Firewall. Firewall looks fucking fantastic, but Bravo Team was the next game I was in. As you know, I'm very stingy when it comes to VR. Like, I have a certain level of quality I want to meet, and Supermassive, after Rush of Blood and everything that's been said about that, I was like, oh, cool, we've got our VR developer that's going to go through and be Sony's pony to
go-to guy.
Yeah, this is going to be the VR. This is going to be the Uncharted or the Naughty Dog of VR. Like, not that it's as good as Uncharted, because that's saying a lot, but it's going to be... when you get a Supermassive game, you know it's going to be good. And this kind of makes me go, well, maybe it's not going to be as good as I think it's going to be then. And that, again, high expectations. That could be just me thinking that this is Sony's first-party studio for games. And it was going to be this great, amazing thing. And it's not.
I mean, really, when you look at the history of Supermassive, Until Dawn, fantastic game. Until Dawn, Rush of Blood, good game. Like, solid game. Good idea. To begin with, like a seated roller coaster shooter in horror.
The big complaint about Rush of Blood was it didn't really tie into Until Dawn, other than the killer was being there.
No.
That was the big...
But it never really was...
But it wasn't a bad game.
It never really was supposed to be heavily a tie-in. Yeah. It was very much like a...
But from a gameplay standpoint, that's what I'm saying. Like, the gameplay of Until Dawn has not really been bashed that hard compared to, like... something like this, like obviously this being a narrative-driven game, which is what Until Dawn is, that's their bread and butter. They might have screwed up the butterfly effect, which is what Until Dawn did well. They didn't do as well this time. So it's like the things that you knew this developer to be known for, they didn't stick the landing on some of those things. And that's kind of scary.
Do you think they tried too hard? But when I say this, what I'm specifically referring to is the binaural audio, the tactile environments, that kind of like using the full arm utilization. Do you think they almost tried to swing for the fences with how they wanted to up the level and then just didn't hit the mark because of that? Do you think it would have been better if they didn't do the tactile stuff?
I think this is more of, again, just too high expectations from people. I think if we went into this, and again, it might be Sony for hyping it up as much as they did, but if we went into this like we did Rush of Blood, where it's kind of like, here's the thing, this is cool looking, and it looks cool, it plays cool, we all love it because it's exactly what we thought we were getting into, versus this is 9 times out of 10 when you don't like a game, it's because it's not what you were expecting. And like you said, the artwork and the trailers were, I don't want to say they're misleading because that's not the right word, but they definitely...
They focused on the wrong things.
Yes, they definitely didn't show you what you're getting into, and I think that's part of the thing.
In a way, though, I feel like that may have been a marketing decision to allow for players to
But it also shoots them in the foot for somebody trying to buy that game.
Sure.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have this... We all go into games with expectations that we want to be met, or things that were... Like, you played... Horizon Zero Dawn, arguably one of the best games of last year. If you went into Horizon Zero Dawn and you watched the trailer of all these giant dinosaur things and You can fight things with swords, and then you get in there, and let's just say instead of fighting things and doing this really cool story, you're riding dinosaurs around. That's what it is. But they show you that you still have all these swords, you still have these things, you see the dinosaurs, like the trailer shows off all this stuff, but that's not what the gameplay is.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel here is like, if they showed it what it was and what it was supposed to be,
I don't think it was that misleading, but I get your point.
Yeah,
like that would be
that's
like
an exaggeration.
What the fuck? Like, why do I have swords then?
That's an exaggeration.
But no, like I think they purposely held off on some of the things. They were going for story trailers, and I think that there are parts of the trailer where you're kind of like, okay, I kind of see why you were showcasing these people or that person in particular, but also like I kind of wish in a way they would have showcased more of the spooky side of it, because what it does spooky really well. It just doesn't do it enough. Yeah. For a 2-hour experience that you're billing as like a top horror title, I need more. In a game like Resident Evil or a game like even Paranormal Activity, I was on my toes the whole time because I never knew when something was going to happen. With this game, because they kind of layer these worlds in a very specific way, where you have like the normal world where you kind of know that you're just going to be okay all the time, and then you very much know when you're in scare territory. Like you very much know when you have to watch your ass.
Yeah.
Right. So, because they make it obvious. And that does mean that, like, when that kicks in and you see the green and everything, you're like, oh, shit, son, here we go. Like, something cool's going to happen. But at the same time, like, that does mean that when you are actually in those safe zones, you're really in those safe zones. This is like, there's no moment where I thought I was safe that I wasn't safe.
Yeah, they didn't pull a trick.
No, they didn't, like, because I thought they were going to do that. They were going to start bleeding things over into the real world, and that suddenly I would start seeing like really creepy shit happen in I guess the player's day. And they didn't. They really didn't do that. So it was a case of like, I absolutely knew when the scares were coming. It doesn't make them any less enjoyable, but I knew they were there, so there was nothing that was like, holy shit, why is this happening? And they could have done so much more with the premise. I mean, it is a wonderful premise, and as the story unfolds, you really start to learn about things, and you start to question your own sanity as a player, and because you don't really get let in on half of what's happening, because you have these kind of consistent blackouts throughout the game, where you'll hear voices and stuff, and then suddenly you'll be normal, and you're in the same environment, and you have no idea what happened, and then you just keep doing your stuff. So, yeah, so I don't know. It's, for me personally, I am a little bit more skeptical, but I don't think it hit me as hard as it hit you, mostly because I played it, and I think if you'd have played it, and which you never will, unfortunately, but if you would have played it, then it would have been easier for you to kind of see that a lot of the shit talk that's going on right now is maybe a little undeserved. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. There's a lot more to this game, I think, than people are giving it chance for. I do not think it's perfect by any means, but I don't expect Bravo Team to be perfect. In fact, the second they said it was teleportation, I knew I wasn't going to like it as much. That's why things like Firewall have me a lot more excited than Bravo Team. But I do wonder about this kind of like advertising versus reality mentality that Sony's had with some of these E3 things, because they did the same thing for Bravo Team when they first released the trailers for it. They made it look like it was going to be, you know, all the way movable aim control. Like when they say aim, you think, oh great, free room. How are you going to make an aim game that has teleportation? It's stupid. So I'm already had tempered expectations the second they announced it was teleport. But as a company, I don't think Supermassive have let me down. I think only my own expectations and perhaps Sony's marketing team have let me down. I did enjoy it, and I am willing to give them further chances.
So I've got Metacritic pulled up here just because I wanted to see it. And it's funny because it's either 10 or 4. There's no like in between. It's like you either liked it or you didn't type thing. And
again, I think it deserves a solid 7.5.
When it comes, so 7.1 is what the user score is. The meta score is 60 on it. The critics tend to be,
reviewers were harsher on it than actual players. But that happens a lot, though.
It's fairly
for VR
similar. Like a lot of the reviewers are neutral, like they're in the middle. Versus again,
I think 5 or 6 is unfair. I think it's outright unfair. I would only put that score based upon things like cost and length and things.
Which you have to take into account.
You do have to take into account, but I think when it comes to VR, you remember, like I said, that when you're reviewing a VR game, immersion should be a whole other category. this game is immersive as fuck. Like, it really does. Like, for those 2 hours that I was playing that character, I was playing that character. I was talking as that character. I found myself putting on a voice to answer the things because I was just like, if it was a cocky answer or a sarcastic answer, I would do it but I didn't sound like me when I did it. I sounded like I would sound like a dazed, confused mental patient when I was answering these questions because that's kind of how I was picturing myself to be. So that immersion level just has this massive amount of extra props for me, which I think carries the score up a little higher than perhaps some things were permitting. I also don't remember them ever coming out and saying it was going to be a 5-hour experience or a 6-hour
But I think that's because of the
experience.
cost of it.
Yeah.
That's where I think that expectation
But I think they're
comes in.
putting that cost based on the quality, which in terms of what you're actually getting as far as graphical fidelity and narrative and that kind of stuff is there. It's only really some of the movement stuff and perhaps the lack of genuine scares that let that cost down. And, you know, like, I don't know. I just... I feel like it's been unfairly hit a little bit. I do agree with a lot of the complaints, but I think that some people had this idea of it being this perfect horror game in their head, and maybe were let down purely based upon their own expectations of it. Whereas I went in with zero expectations because of the mixed reviews. No, because of the mixed reviews, I threw them out the window. Because previously I had expectations of something, and then when I read the mixed reviews, I was like, you know what? Wipe the slate clean. It could be good. It could be bad. I have no idea. Let's just sit down and experience it. And I kind of had to put my reviewer hat on and be like, I'm going to be as fair to this as humanly possible. I'm going to see the bad. I'm going to see the good. I'm definitely not going to be tainted by the things that I've read before I got into this game. And when I came out of it, when I'm sat there watching the credits, I was like, that was good. I had a good time. Did I have $40 worth of a good time? Maybe not. You know, if I'd got a code, I probably would have maybe ranted about it a little better.
But that shouldn't.
I know it shouldn't affect it, but I'm saying like, I think that knowing that I spent my own money on it, and it's kind of weird to say this, but knowing that I spent my own money on it kind of hit me harder than maybe if I would have gotten a code. So I wonder if some of these positive reviews are coming from people that do get codes for it. I do think that 30 is a sweet spot, though. I think I would pay 30 and feel okay about it. 40 I was all right because I traded in a bunch of games for this and Monster Hunter, so I wasn't so mad about it. But yeah, I feel like 30 is a sweet spot for this, maybe even 25. But I think they deserve 30 because of the effort they tried to put into it, even if it didn't work, because they tried, and they tried really hard to make this game the best possible game it could be. It just didn't work out that way. So
cool.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. So I'm willing to give them a second chance, but I will be tentative, and I think you're tentative too. So. Yep. There you go.
You got to get my trust back now.
Got to get it back. All right, so that was our show for the day. We'd like to thank our guest Easily from yesterday, and she'll be back on again tomorrow's show. Obviously, VR is not something that she does a whole lot, so she wasn't super into the idea of sitting through this. Can't blame her. I'm excited that we got to talk about the Inpatient. I'm pissed off that I lost all the footage for it because it really was good footage, but I will re-record and we'll make sure that gets up on the channel for you guys to view. Don't forget Cold Iron stuff is currently live, so you can check out that stuff because Cold Iron is worth a look too.
It's one I think a lot of people are going to overlook.
Yes, I think so, and I also think that it's one of those games that you genuinely do have to play to fully appreciate
because it doesn't look good from even when like I said when I watch your
as a watching, it's not really a game that you would want to stream or anything, just because like it is essentially watching how fast someone can move a gun from this position to this position. The puzzle elements are kind of neat though, and they're fun to figure out while you're playing. So yeah, we'd love to thank you guys again for all of your engagement recently. It's been the best. You guys are always the best. We're hoping to grow this out way more than we're at right now, and we need your help to do that. So please spread the word. You don't owe us anything as far as Patreon or any of that, but if you comment, if you like, if you share, if you tell people, hey guys, there's this neat PSVR podcast that I listen to, all of that just means the fucking world to us, and it's free to do. So if you can do that, then we love you.
And then just housekeeping, next week we will not be here. It'll be Wizard World content coming up. So if you're looking for the podcast, you won't find them. You will find a bunch of probably interviews and just us running around the show floor.
We will be running around Wizard World St. Louis, but we will be asking people that we are interviewing about VR and things like that nature. So don't worry, there will still be some semi-interesting content.
Yes. Just won't be the traditional podcast as you know.
If you want to know Sean Bean's opinion on VR, you may find out next week. So a lot of fun that we have ahead of us. But yeah, we will be skipping the traditional podcast next week in favor of our con stuff, which is always a great time for us, and hopefully it will be a great time for you once we give you the content. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Keegan, anything you want to add? I was going to see how far I could stare you out there, but no, I can't do it. I also hate dead air. Say something. Oh, you're the fucking worst. All right. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. And as always,
welcome to the second level.
Bye. You fucking prick.
Ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.